Good afternoon. John from Johnny Thundersticks here. Um, Today I'm going to be showing you how to do a Blackhawk hammer in a Ruger Vaquero single action pistol or revolver, excuse me. Okay, so let's get started. First thing you want to do is always check, make sure there's nothing in it. I'm going to take the cylinder out so it's out of our way. Take the cylinder pin and cylinder and we'll set that aside. Okay, there you have it. We'll take the grip off. Try to keep my big hands out of the way because they have a tendency to get in the way. Okay, so we'll pull the grip off. All right, so the first thing you're going to have to do is you're going to have to remove the hammer. This is actually the mainspring in the strut. So you want to cock it back and then take a paper clip. I use other things, but for this demonstration, I'm not in my shop. So you take a paper clip, stick it in, pull the trigger, and that's going to free that tension on that spring. So then what I do is I grab the retainer here, and the Ruger on some of theirs they use a lock. And what that lock does is it makes it so you can't pull the trigger. So anyway, we'll get this out of our way, that little block, and then the mainspring and strut come out. And the orientation of that, as you can see, the spring here and the little ball end that goes up into the hammer, that'll be facing just like that. So what I do is whatever side I put my little spring retainer in, then I know that that's the side that's going to be going back in. So we'll set that aside for right now. I'm going to attempt this to do this video outside of my shop because it's easier to do the video here. However, some of these require a little different setup when I'm in my shop versus doing it on the video. So if I kind of fumble around a little bit, that's the reason why. But anyway, I will show you how we get this going here. So remove all the screws. You're going to have around the trigger guard, you're going to have 3 of them. And I just line the screws up. It doesn't matter which direction they go or anything because the only screw on this bottom plate that's different is this one I'm doing right now. And it has a little longer tail on it. And what that does is retain, there you can see the longer tail. That retains the trigger pin, so that trigger, or the hammer pin, excuse me, the hammer pin, so that the hammer pin won't come out of there. So those are the left and the right side. And the front's the smallest screw, so don't get it confused with these two in the back strap. The back strap has 2 that are a little longer than that one in the front of the trigger part, and they go in this back strap part. And then when you pull this back strap off, once we get the screw out of here, there it is. I do a lot of these for cowboy action shooters because they like shooting the Ruger Vaqueros. So what we do is we lighten them a little bit for that, and then we also change the hammer, which I'll show you in a minute. Okay, so when this comes out, you want to kind of lean it back a little bit and pull it out. That comes out. So what you have in there now is basically you're going to have the hammer, uh, the trigger spring, and the cylinder latch spring and the plunger are all that's going to be left in this grip, and we'll work on that in a few minutes. Okay, so now this is the pawl uh, spring and plunger that goes in this top hole right here. Okay, so now you can go ahead and this is where I'm hoping it comes out okay, but you got to use a little vise or something, because the next step is on this latch spring right here. You have to apply a little pressure down, and when you're applying pressure down, at the same time you want to push on that spring to get it past, because what it has, I'll show you in a minute, it has a little cut around that has a little cut around there so that it goes around that latch spring. Okay, so you can see this little notch in here. That little notch goes around the latch here, has a little groove in it, and I can take that out, show you that too if you'd like. Okay, so now the trigger will come out. That's the trigger. You can pop the pin for the hammer, and the hammer will come out, and the ball is on the hammer, and then this is a transfer bar, safety transfer bar that are in there, and then this is the cylinder latch here. That's the cylinder latch, and then this here is the latch that holds the gate, the cylinder gate here, and that latch, I can take it out and show you. It has a little hook right here, and when this pin is in, that goes around that and holds it in place. So that's its purpose. Uh, Goes back in here. We won't go into any more detail on the lower part on the cylinder, all that. I just wanted to show you this video on doing the hammers. So the hammers, the two hammers. This is a stock hammer, and it has the plunger in it and everything because I just took it out. So this is the Super Blackhawk hammer, and you can see this is the stock one. You can see how narrow it is, and that's the Super Blackhawk hammer. You can see how wide it is, and not only that, but it also has. If you lay this down, you'll see the curve on this. This hammer curves the other way a little bit, and so it gives you an advantage when you're cocking it. You've got to remember, these guys that shoot cowboy action are using one thumb to cock this, and they do it fairly quick. So um, there's a lot of things that I do to these. Like, one of the main things you'll want to do is you'll want to polish everything really good. Make sure there's no burrs anywhere. Uh, However, in this video, I'm just showing you how to put this hammer in this gun, and we're going to lighten the trigger spring and also the main spring itself. Okay, so that you can see. So the getting the plunger out. Um, what I usually do with this plunger is I take this and you just push it in a little bit. It's not the right one. And then this pin will push right out real easy. So there's your plunger pin right there. And then here's the plunger, and right behind that is a spring. So you have the spring and the plunger and the pin. Okay, so that now is a disassembled stock hammer. So now we'll want to put all that back in here. So we start with the spring. There again, you've seen my videos, and please look at my other videos if you get a chance. I'd appreciate it. I need some input, and I also, if you like what I'm doing or not, I need to know that. Okay, so we get a little oil on there, and then you'll see that the plunger, excuse me, has a little bit of a cutout in it, and that cutout is so that it can ride between the pins. So when you put it in, you want to put that in so that the groove is facing you when you're putting it in. That way, when you push this in, this pin is real small, but it holds tension on it. So we're going to get this pin in the hole, and when you get to that spot, you kind of know because it's, let's see here. Okay, so it turned around on me there. Okay, so just bring that in, push it in, drive, put that pin in. Now the pin will go in real easy. You see, I didn't use any force. That's the other thing about working on any kind of firearm. You want to make sure that you don't use any force at all. If it doesn't go, there's a reason for it not going. So we'll go ahead and start sticking some of this back together. And the pawl goes on the opposite side of the plunger. So it goes in this little hole here. And when you put it in, we'll bring it back over here so you can kind of see it. When we put it back in, you'll want to just slide that pawl in to the hole, and then try to find, ideally, you'll want to, obviously find the hole for the hammer. But what I do first is this is your safety transfer bar, and that goes in. One of the things I do to this transfer bar is I always kind of take any sharp edges off of that you can. Not You're not taking a bunch of material, but when you take the sharp edge off, then it'll roll across the firing pin easier. I've found that guys have a problem with that sometimes. So the orientation of this is this little rounded edge on the top of that goes towards the firing pin, and this little notch is going to come back and it's going to go into the trigger like that, which I'll try to line that out the best I can for you. So this part you can drop in the hole right now, just like that. Okay, so now you want to find your this is your hammer pin, and the hammer pin with this notch, I always put it on the left hand side of the gun. So you're gonna go in here. Let me get it kind of lined up so I can see it. Kind of hard to see that. See all of that. There we go. I think I got it. Okay. There we go. Oh, I pushed it too far. Okay. So we're gonna go in the hole again here. Sorry, I just don't have any I don't have the sight hole there. Okay, so there we are. We're lined up. Just push it in until it goes to that point. And now what you can do is take a small, I just use a small screwdriver, and I pull the safety bar up like this. But before you do that, it's best if you get the cylinder latch, and the cylinder latch, this little nub on the cylinder latch actually goes in, and what it does is that little latch goes between the spring right here, and that spring helps keep tension on that as well. Um, so now your trigger can go in, and you just bring this safety bar up. See if I can hold it so I can show you. And then the trigger uh, goes around that safety bar nub, and this goes in. And what you're going to do is you're trying to line it up so that this pin goes through. It's going to go through and hold this pin, this latch here, the latch spring, and it's going to go through the cylinder latch and through the trigger. So what I do is I put pressure down on that spring, and I always run this one in from this side where the spring is. And the reason I do is because that helps you get it started. Uh, because of this little notch can kind of screw you up once in a while. Okay, so then you just want to feel it till you kind of get these lined up here. And sometimes it's easier if you take a little punch and just kind of line them up. Just tap lightly. Okay, so now you got it that far, you can just push this in, and you'll hear it click. It clicks around this spring right here. Okay, so that's got that set up in there for you. And one thing you want to be careful of is make sure that your uh, your trigger pin or your hammer pin doesn't fall out of the hole, because it'll try to on you. So sometimes what I do is I'll take a little piece of tape and just stick it on there like that. You can pull it off easy enough, but it'll hold that from doing that for you. Okay, so we're gonna set this aside just for a minute, and then I'm gonna pull this. These are your This is your actual trigger spring. Okay, and what I always if you've seen my other videos, you know that I use pretty much strictly wolf springs. They've always proven to be a really good spring, and I've always had good luck with them. I gotta cut another little piece of tape here, and I'll show you why in just a minute here. Okay, so another little piece of tape, and what we'll do with that little piece of tape, because you're going to run into the same issue with this trigger spring. So now what you want to do is just push this trigger spring out, the pin out, and the trigger spring will come right out. Okay. So this particular one is a Wolf reduced power trigger spring, and we're gonna stick that in there. This is the standard stock one. So we're gonna put this in, and you put it in with the ears. You'll see there's a 90 degree on these. Those have to go in and sit like that. So you're gonna put it in, and when you put it in, I usually go from this side and put it in there until you get lined up kind of close to where the pinhole is, which is about there. Whoops, she bounced on me. Okay, so I'll come back in this way. These things are not hard. They're just there's a lot of stuff you got to kind of just keep your eye on and make sure that my big problem right now is not being able to see right where I'm at, but we'll get it lined up. There we go. I got one side kind of lined up. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this pin in there to catch that. I don't know if you can see that or not well enough. It's kind of tough. If you wanted to slide back. All right, I'm going to try to line this up the best I can here. Okay, and so once you get it lined up, just push that pin through. And like, none of these pins are going to really be hard to do, but put a little piece of tape. I put a little piece of tape, leave the tail out, just out like that. It just keeps that pin from falling on you because you're going to be moving them a little bit and stuff like that. So uh, that's the main thing. Okay, so your cylinder spring, your latch and spring go in this hole here, and it's kind of oriented at an angle, a little bit of an angle, and that's how you want it. Just kind of move it up and down a couple of times. Put a little drop of oil on it. It just keeps it from getting sticky and stuff. You don't want to use heavyweight oil on anything with firearms because it just creates an issue with dirt and stuff, and then it clogs up on you. So you just don't want to mess with that. Okay, so now we're going to put our cylinder pawl uh, spring and plunger, and that goes in this very top hole. There's three holes here. These two are for the grip, and then this top hole goes into the plunger. The plunger goes into the pawl. Excuse me. Then put a little bit of oil on that. Okay, not much, just enough to keep it lubricated. Okay, so that spring goes into about there. You'll see it sticks out probably an eighth of an inch. Okay, this is the part that gets a little critical when you're putting it together because there's three things that have to line up. One, you're going to have to line this plunger with the cylinder latch, making sure it stays in the hole here with the cylinder latch, and you'll see the cylinder latch is right here. That's a cylinder latch. Well, that little plunger puts pressure on that and works the cylinder latch. Then you have the trigger spring, which that has to go over the groove of the hammer here, or the trigger here, I mean. So it goes around this part of the trigger. And then you have the pawl spring and up on the top here that you have to get around at the same time. So what I do is I bring the trigger in to the housing. I line up that spring with the latch. Now, what you have to kind of do here is you have to get the trigger spring over that one spot, like I said, and you have to get that spring and capture all of those at the same time. And then this long screw with the longer tab on it, there, longer at the length of it anyway, goes in here, and what that'll do is that will hold your trigger, your hammer pin from going anywhere. That'll retain it because it has a little groove in that pin that screw goes up in and holds it in place. Okay, so there you have that. You remove that tape, and then here's where you want to try and make sure if everything works here. You can hear the latch, then you're good. You're good to keep going. Okay, so then I take this piece off that is holding the hammer springs in place, and you can see it how it moves the hammer So we got that captured correctly. All right, so now we're going to be putting back in this mainspring strut. And I normally, what I do with these is I take sandpaper and I just lightly buff these off, and that cleans up any rough edges on there. Just put a tiny bit of oil, and what this does is this sits up, which I'll show you. This sits up the hammer. The hammer has a little slot in it here, and so that little piece goes up, and the orientation is just like that. That little ball area goes up. Now I've already changed the spring. However, I can take it back apart and show you kind of how I do it, so you know what may or may not work for you. So let me do that so that we keep this going, so you'll know how to replace these springs, because they're very critical. This particular spring makes a huge difference in the way the gun functions. So because I do this differently in my shop than I'm doing it here, you can take a cutters like this, like I don't know, the dikes or whatever you call them. Anyway, I grab up near the top of the spring, and you're not putting a lot of pressure, just kind of keeping it tight so that you can pull this retainer out. Okay, so there's your spring. You can see I didn't hurt it. All right, so this is already a Wolf spring, reduced power spring, and that's what I use. I use Wolf springs. Um, Putting it back on, the trick to this, and please make sure that you're wearing safety goggles, because safety glasses or whatever, because it can get you. So this for this particular video, I'm going to do it this way, and that's you take these and you get a little groove in it so that you can push this down and retain the spring. Once you get it down, then grab it and put your pin back in and let go, and that's got it. Okay, so then you can replace that spring just like that. So there's the spring. There's the orientation of the spring. It's still got some oil on it, so we're good. So now what you want to do is you want to take it and work it into place, and get it in that groove. You can see right there. You can see the groove right there. And once you're in that groove, then what I do is I take this one, has a safety lock that's made by Ruger, and those, you'll see the notch in the frame here. Well, that notch in the frame goes between these notches right here. So what I do is I get this, and don't let this bother you, because it's not going to hurt it. But I get it up and I hold it up so that I can get this piece on, and then I bring it in and get this out of the way. So here's where you can kind of grab onto this and get it just past that latch there, push it into place, and then slide it back. Okay, so now you can pull your pin that's retained here. Sometimes you got to use something to pull on it. Pull it straight back. Once you get it straight back, then it's retained in there, and that works good. I'm going to put a little bit of oil right here in that groove, so that oils that strut real good in the hammer, because this is a brand new hammer. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to put the This is your trigger spring that we just installed. And so the little 90-degree go around this pin, and you want to make sure that they snap over there and lock in place. They have a little groove on that. Bring it over, and on both sides, press it down. You hear it go into place. Okay, now it should work just fine. Oh wow, those feel so nice. Okay, and now I'm gonna stick the grips back on. They kind of lock in place. Once I get the grips on, then what I do is I put the rest of the screws in. This all just keeps everything together real nice and stuff from getting screwed up in there. Okay, so the next longest screw goes to the right side on this bottom. And if you know when you're doing gun work, if you just take your time, look at how it all comes apart, and try to get it all back together the same way. You may have a few ifs here and there. I've been doing these for long time for cowboy shooters, so they're pretty easy for me. But I understand when you're working on something that you're really not super familiar with. Sometimes I've had a few of those myself, so just try to take your time. Don't over tighten everything. Um, Use a little bit of oil. Of course, you knew that was coming. Uh, and I do encourage you to watch my other videos, if you, especially if you're into 1911s or ARs at all. And I work on just about every kind of gun there is. And I do a lot of cowboy action guns. There we go. Okay, so now we're going to put the cylinder latches on these, which is really super nice. They they work without cocking the hammer, which is pretty cool. Okay, so now we're going to put the cylinder back in. This is a 45 long Colt, by the way. Um, and the ratchet part goes in like this. Here's another important part on a Ruger that you want to remember, because you'll need to lube it. This little pin right here is super important on these. So we'll put a little bit of oil on that. It's got a little spring behind it, and if that gets messed up, it won't function well. I put a little bit of oil on this cylinder pin, and then when we put that cylinder pin in, there's this lock right there. That's the pin lock. Just push on that. Get this locked in. And we'll try to line it up here if we can. Let's see here. Come back out of there. Get a little bit of oil on this. Sometimes we take a little and put a little bevel on that, so it's a lot easier to get together, because sometimes they can be a real booger. Some of that is. There we go. All right, so we're going to drop that in the hole there, and then we push on that pin lock. Once it gets into the hole, then just run it on back till you hear it click, and close the gate, and there you have it. Well, I hope that's been informative. If you have any questions, or you would like to put these kind of hammers on yours, then what you buy is you just get a super Blackhawk hammer, and they fit in these really super nice, and they have all of the springs you need at Wolf, and you can make a super nice little gun out of them. And as you can see, they fire very quickly. You know, that's firing it pretty fast for a revolver. So I hope that's been helpful, and thank you for watching.